communication on William's video. The problem is that it's very difficult sometimes when listening to you or reading you, and especially in your debates with all the free stuff you get. I'm a poor college student; I can't afford all that. Um, is the difference between transubstantiation and real presence and what it is you are explicitly denying. Now, what it seems to me that you're denying is the adoration of the host after consecration, and if that's the case, that's what I was disagreeing with you on. I also disagree with you in some respect, and other people who might follow Calvin. I know you're Reformed Baptist, I don't fully know your views on the Eucharist. Is to call it an anamnesis or memorial meal is one thing, and that's not something I would at all reject. Although the understanding of memorial as being separate from the event and not actually tied to it, I would definitely disagree with, and I'm sure you probably would too. Um, my problem has to do, though, with in some of your debates, especially in your use of Augustine, it seems as if that if you were to argue that Augustine at all shows a difference between the sign and the thing signified, for example, in unchristian teaching, that automatically means, therefore, that Rome is wrong and therefore that you're right. And that's seems to me to be a logical fallacy. Just by negating theirs does not actually mean yours is correct. In fact, I see some problems with that in how you are applying a current modern day usage of the word sign and symbol to something in, the 4th century and 5th century. I don't know if that's really possible. And part of the reason for this misunderstanding, I think, has to do with, um, perhaps your unwillingness to look at Eastern Orthodoxy, and there's a reason for this. There's a blogspot site called orthodox-thoughts.blogspot.com. Now, I do actually recall hearing you on the Andrew Tallman show when the two Eastern Orthodox guys were kind of guest hosting it. And I think that this might explain some of your misunderstandings with Rome, and also might actually help you against Rome. So, don't fully poo-poo this yet. In his 2007 08-30 dividing line, James White says that he doesn't fully understand Eastern Orthodox thinking, and what's more, has no interest whatsoever in understanding it. Now, if you disagree with him, that's one thing. This is the post for September 4th, 2007, from that blogspot site I mentioned. So if you have a problem with that, take it up with them. I'm just saying that's what they're saying, and that's what it seems to me that you also kind of indicated. It seems more than a little odd to me that someone who seems to be interested in responding to every lunatic cult has no interest in interacting with a church that has existed for 2,000 years. But here's the problem. The Roman Catholic Church, which White never tires of beating up, was one church with Eastern Orthodoxy for 1,000 years. And while Orthodoxy criticizes Rome for its scholasticism, James White and his ilk are Rome times 100 when it comes to scholasticism. Or, in other words, part of the reason why White is always talking at cross purposes with Rome is that he doesn't understand Orthodoxy. He understands the scholastic side of Rome, but he doesn't understand the mystical side which it shares with Orthodoxy. A case in point was provided in this very issue of the Dividing Line, where he beats up on Rome in his usual fashion that the canon wasn't dogmatically defined until Trent 1500 years after the fact. So the rhetorical question of White is, why did anyone need Rome since for 1500 years we had no dogmatic definition? Both Catholics and Orthodox would say that the canon was already there in tradition, which is an answer 1,000 times more substantive than any answer that White has ever given to the question. And because White is so focused on scholasticism, all he cares about interacting with is the dogmatic statements of Rome, and he can't get a hold of this tradition thingy. For him, it's all too ephemeral. Now, if he ever actually took the time to understand the Orthodox mind, for which tradition is primary, he wouldn't waste so much breath talking about Trent. He might also be able to interact concerning the more ephemeral aspect of his own rule of faith. He tries to make the canon sound like such a cut-and-dried historic fact in favor of his own canon, but in reality there is no ancient Jewish source that enumerates his 39-book Old Testament canon. His scholastic endeavors in reality reach their limits, but he has to gloss over the cracks to make it all hold together. So, that's just what they're saying. And it also just seems to me, at least in the beginning part, that's what you're saying. Now, I also know that you're having conversations about the canon and whatever. I don't really know what to say about that. I think it's interesting, though, that Athanasius in his, I believe his 67th Easter encyclical mentions that Esther is part of the Old Testament Apocrypha. So, anyway, just thought that I would mention that. Now, going back to our understanding of Augustine and the Eucharist, this is what Calvin says concerning the Eucharist. And this is also not necessarily in direct confrontation with you, but somebody else on that site. So let me just make sure I'm understanding the concepts here. For starters, there's several views on the Eucharist. One is transubstantiation.